If you bought your South Florida home before 2020, you could be sitting on a small fortune right now. The question is it a good time to cash out in 2025? So in this video, we'll actually be discussing that, whether you should or shouldn't sell in 2025, and I'll have lots of data to back it up for all my lovely people in South Florida. Hi, hello, my name is Darla. I am a local real estate agent down here in South Florida. And it's obviously very important for me to stay up to date with what's going on in our market, as it helps me to better serve my clients, because I hear questions like this all the time. People always want to know how the market is doing, what's going on with the market, will the real estate market crash? These are probably some of the questions real estate agents get every single day. So like I said, it's always important to stay up to date with local information. Without further ado, let's get into the video. I will have little infographics posted on the screen with their respective sources. So if you're a data loving person that's watching, feel free to pause the video just in case you want to check it out. So if you're a homeowner in South Florida wondering, should I sell my home now in 2025 or even maybe early 2026, this video is for you. So the first thing I feel like it's important to talk about is the real estate market has definitely cooled down significantly since the crazy rise in 2020 and 2021. Now, why did it rise? For whoever might not know, when COVID happened, the feds needed to stimulate the economy because nobody was purchasing, nobody was doing anything, right? Everybody was freaked out. So they dropped interest rates to historic lows. I mean, people were purchasing houses 2 to 3% interest rates, which was amazing, right? And it allowed, a lot of homes to be affordable for maybe some it wouldn't have been affordable too. Or even investors who, obviously that's a really great interest rate, they went ahead and took advantage. Now, when you have a large amount of buyers rushing into the market like that, naturally prices go up, and that's what happened, right? I mean, during COVID, prices within a year, prices went up 25%. It was insane. Houses could not stay on the market. Typically, they're getting tons of offers within one day of being on market. It was an insane time, right? Now, fast forward to 2025, like I mentioned, the market has cooled down significantly, and we also have rising inventory, which means there are a lot more homes that are available for sale that buyers can choose from versus just getting what they can back in 2020 or 2021. Now, this rising inventory that we have now is definitely favorable to buyers, right? Because now there's more competition amongst sellers. So typically, if you have a motivated seller, they are more than likely to offer concessions to buyers, whether it's helping them buy out their points, whether it's giving them credits towards their closing costs, or just lowering the prices, right? It's motivated, and I have to emphasize motivated. People who actually really want to sell, they are more incentivized to do that with all the inventory that we have on market. It is also important to note that sellers are still in a very solid financial position given the significant rise in home values over the past few years. I saw a stat that showed that, home prices have increased about 70% since 2018, 2019. So that gives you an idea. A lot of people are sitting on a lot of equity, especially if they purchased before 2020. Now, during COVID, there were a lot of sellers who listed their homes way above market value and were still able to get their price. Fast forward to today, that's not happening, right? So why do I say that? I say that because homes that are listed at market value are selling, right? If you list it fairly within, where the values are, you're likely gonna get an offer, especially for the single family home, because that's where a lot of the demand is. And we're gonna get into the different markets down here and how they differ, right? But let's say you are an unrealistic seller and you're going to list your home about 20% above the value, right? Well, those homes specifically are the ones that we are seeing not selling, dealing with very long days on market, because it's not that market anymore. It's not 2020 anymore. People can't just name their price. A very interesting trend that we've been seeing is the amount of homes being delisted. Now, what does that mean? A delisted home is a home that was on the market, but then the seller decided to go ahead and take it off, right? In Miami, about 27 homes were delisted for every 100 that went on the market. Did you know that is double the amount of the national average, which is 13.6? So what does this tell us? Remember I mentioned that motivated sellers will offer concessions. There are other sellers who may not be as much of in a need to sell, right? And so they'll name their price, they'll put their property on the market at a certain price. And if they're not able to get the price that they're looking for, a lot of them are just gonna go ahead and take their home off the market. And as you see in the infographic, the numbers are significantly higher for South Florida than they are for the rest of the country. This also shows a growing mismatch between buyers and sellers, where sellers have a certain expectation and buyer demand is somewhere else, right? Whether we are in a buyer's market, seller's market, neutral market, that's a good question. I would say overall we are in a buyer's market right now. Typically a buyer's market is classified as having over 6 months of inventory on the market. What does 6 months of inventory on market means? It means it would take, if there were no other homes that came on the market right now, and there were 6 months of homes on inventory, it would take on average about 6 months for all the homes to sell, right? So when you have less than 6, it's considered a seller's market. More than 6, it's considered a buyer. And overall, we're in a buyer's market. Also, we've noticed that the days on market have increased by about 30% since 2020. It's also important to know that the issues like rising insurance costs and climate issues that we're facing in Florida are definitely not helping the real estate market at all, right? Florida actually has the highest home insurance premiums than anywhere else in the country. I think average home insurance premiums are between $5,000 to $6,000, which is insane. It's about 40% more than what it was a few years ago, where I remember people were getting quoted between $2,000 to $3,000. And let's say you have a condo on the beach, or you're in a very high flood risk area, I mean, your insurance costs are gonna be that much higher. We've also had a lot of problems with older condos. So the older condos, the ones built, let's say over 60 years ago, I mean, they're facing higher insurance premiums as well. So again, these issues are not helping the real estate market whatsoever. And how does it affect the real estate market? Well, this comes back down to the buyer, right? We already have a major affordability issue when it comes to purchasing real estate for a lot of consumers in the United States, right? And the number one demographic that are purchasing properties right now are boomers, right? So the generation that are selling down, wanting to have kids, they're not even in the affordability loop to be able to purchase the home and live the American dream with, having their house, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, all of that. So a lot of times, and I've seen it myself, where even if a buyer can afford the mortgage, the insurance premium is so high that it tips them right outside the affordability as far as what they can purchase. Now, we talked about the market has definitely slowed down, yes. But something interesting to keep in mind is despite the market slowdown, home prices are still pretty stable. Home prices have not come down significantly. I mean, from what we see, home values are actually still significantly higher than pre-pandemic levels. We noticed that for single family homes in Broward County, sellers are still getting about 96% of their asking price. Now keep in mind, these are of the homes that sold. So obviously if a property was delisted, this is not factored into the numbers because it didn't sell. And also if it just ends up expiring off the market, which means it never sold and it just naturally comes off the market once their contract expires with their realtor, this is not considered as well. Even in the condo market, I mean, the condo market has over 10 months of inventory available, which shows a very strong buyer's market. But even in a strong buyer's market like our condo market down here, the sellers are still getting about 95% of their asking price. In a separate video, I'll go into a little bit more detail as far as what is going on with the condo market. I mean, the condo market is totally different than single family or even luxury market down here. It's a total beast in its own, mainly from a lot of them having a ton of assessments, especially after Surfside. So like I said, that topic deserves a video of its own, right? But for the sake of this video, just know that the condo market, specifically the older condo market, is in a strong buyer's market right now. And I did mention the luxury market and how it's totally different, and it really, really is, right? So wealthy buyers are still moving to Florida from New York, California, Latin America, a lot of international buyers for the lifestyle, the luxury appeal, and the tax benefits, especially the ones coming from California and New York. And that's important to consider. I mean, we had the biggest influx during COVID, but it's safe to say that people are still coming, right? At least the luxury buyers. And what's interesting is a lot of them are actually cash buyers. In Miami, more than 50% of homes sold over $1 million are purchased all cash. So our market down here in South Florida has a very clear pattern. The higher up you go in price point, the higher the percentages of an all cash purchase. So obviously these buyers are a lot less rate sensitive because it doesn't necessarily affect them in that specific home purchase. So this keeps the actual luxury demand pretty strong down here in our real estate market. The average home price of like a standard mid-range single family home is closer to $500K. So despite our mid-range homes taking longer to sell, the luxury demand is much, much higher. So I know that was quite a bit of information to digest, but to put it all together, whether you should be selling your property or not in 2025 comes down to your specific situation, right? So who should sell right now? There is no one size fits all, I'll tell you that much. You need to consider your level of urgency, your property type, definitely the equity that you have in your home, and that's when you purchase is definitely gonna factor in that, and if you had a refi after or not. And also your personal goals, that's important too. Like I said, in certain segments, the market is still strong, so it may make more sense for you to get the buyer that you're looking for. If you're in an older condo, it may make it a little bit more difficult, but that's where we go back to what are your personal goals of what's going on in your specific situation. Definitely with these shifting dynamics with the different markets and how they are right now in 2025, when I say different markets, condo, luxury, single family, professional guidance is that much more important, right? And shameless plug, I am a South Florida realtor that is more than happy to help you out. If you purchased before 2020, it's likely that you have a ton of equity in your home, and it may make more sense if you want to sell to go ahead and lock in your profits now, right? Let's say you have a job relocation, you may not be able to sit around and wait on the market, right? Let's say you're relocating states, or you're just going far enough to where it's not close to home. It may make sense to go ahead and sell as long as you're not upside down with the home sale. Let's say you didn't purchase just 2 years ago, and if you sell, you're gonna be at a loss. You don't wanna be in that position. If you're in that position, I would say maybe try and hold on to it. See if you can rent out the property and get the rental revenue to cover your mortgage. Now, let's say you do have equity and you don't want to have to be a landlord and you're relocating and you don't want to have to deal with that headache. It may make sense to go ahead and sell, especially if the rental income doesn't significantly cover the mortgage. What I mean by that is if your mortgage is $3,000 and the rental revenue was only about $3,100 or $3,200, it may not make sense only because you do have to factor in vacancies, repairs. That is an additional expense and it's going to eat up your profit. So it has to make sense financially when you make decisions like that. Like we mentioned, inventory is definitely rising, but it's still not really where we were pre-pandemic. So if you have a nice updated home, it's likely you will capture a strong offer. I mean, renovation costs and building costs are still very high. That's crazy if they were in the middle of COVID, but they are still pretty high. So I notice a lot of buyers really prefer an updated home, a home that's ready to move in. So that definitely gives you the advantage if you're looking to sell. Now, if you're a luxury real estate owner, it may also make sense for you to sell because there is a strong demand for luxury homes out here in South Florida. So if you're looking to lock in your profits, now is the time. So all in all, whether you decide to sell now or maybe wait with a plan in place, the most important step you can have is to know your numbers and to know the options as well, right? If you'd like a personalized home report, know your numbers, or even a free strategy session, I would love to help. Like I said, I am a local real estate agent down here in South Florida. I have experience working with a lot of sellers. So my contact info will be on screen and in the description. Feel free to contact me. And if this video was of value to you, I would love if you can support this channel by hitting the like button, going ahead and subscribing, joining my real estate community, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.